Welcome back to the Everyday Armor podcast. Today, we are going to talk about another one of my reality TV obsessions. Now, I just have to say that I am not just like a bandwagon Traitors fan. I have been watching from the very beginning. I love these kinds of shows. I think like any gaming show, I am such a fan of. Like I was a very big fan of like Survivor, all those different types of game shows. So I love also seeing all of those people come on as well, because I feel like a lot of these shows you end up with just a lot of celebrities or reality TV stars, which I love, but it's really fun seeing a lot of the strategy behind this game, and there's just so much psychology involved in it. So today we're going to get into the newest season of Traitors. And they are casting for like everyday people, which I think is super interesting. And I think that's what they do in other countries. And I like it because you don't really know a lot about these people. Like with somebody like Lisa Rinna, even Donna Kelsey, I feel like they immediately kind of have these targets on their backs because people know who and how they are in real life. And it's either, oh, they'd make an unsuspecting traitor, or, well, obviously they must be a traitor, right? But these people, when it's just normal everyday people, you don't know, you can't go on and study this person or see them. You don't know that much about them. So I really kind of like that idea. But I do want to give a small trigger warning. We are going to be talking about Colton and Michael Rappaport, which obviously there's some, stuff tied in with them that does have to do a little bit with domestic violence. There will be some talk of that today, just as a forewarning. But I love this show because of the psychology aspect. And if you're not familiar, basically it's this TV show where in the US here, they have on like reality TV stars, they have on celebrities, they have, I think they even have like former athletes. I mean, all different kinds of people. They have former gamers from like Survivor, Big Brother, and it is so crazy, the whole premise. So basically they all go to this castle in Scotland, and they're even supposed to kind of dress to theme. And it's hosted by Alan Cumming. And they have to do these different challenges because they're all working to build up this pot of money that they win at the end. Now, there's traitors and faithfuls. The traitors, there's normally about 3 of them, and they know that obviously they're all traitors, and they vote off one person. I believe it's every night, and then everybody else is a faithful. Well, meanwhile, all the faithfuls are trying to figure out who the traitors are. So the traitors have to act like they're faithfuls and try to not, get picked up that they're traitors. So they vote everybody out one night. But then the craziest part of this game is that they have to go all to this literal round table. They call it the round table. They all go sit there and they discuss who they think is a traitor. And I feel like I would have a little bit of a hard time, like not taking it a little personal, but oh my gosh, some of these conversations, I'm like, I can't even imagine having all these people come at you and like accuse you of something, especially if you know it's not true. And even if it like you are a traitor and they're accusing you of it, having to defend yourself but not look too suspicious. And I feel like once your name is brought up at the round table, like it's game over. Once people kind of suspect you, it's very hard to come back from. And maybe you kind of skate by for a couple weeks, but eventually they end up voting you out because people are grasping at straws, especially at the beginning. So at the round table, they vote off one person they think is a traitor. That person then has to go in front of the whole table once they've gone around person with the most. Oh, also, they all vote on chalkboards, and then they flip it up and tell who they think is a traitor. And then the person with the most votes stands up, and they reveal whether or not they're a traitor. Here's the kicker. If you make it to the end, you have to, and they do this like little thing where they toss like stuff into the fire, and you can decide. One color is like, I feel good about everybody standing around this fire. And then I think it's blue or green. I'm not sure. And then I think if it's red, that says like, I'm not good with everybody here. I think somebody here is still a traitor. And then you can vote them off. And I just think it's the most wild thing because so let's say there's 4 people at the end and one of them is a traitor. The traitor gets all the money, and they do these challenges throughout the entire show. I think the show is like 2.5 weeks or something. So they're doing all these challenges, and while they do them, they're working to gain money together. So with this final prize pot, if there's a traitor, even one, let's say again, there's like 4 people, one of them's a traitor, that person gets all the money. If all people at the end are faithfuls, then they split the money. So the game is such a mind fuck. I love it. So anyways, getting into, first of all, I kind of want to talk about the psychology of it. Then we'll get into like my thoughts and opinions, and I have very strong ones, and I'm very excited to share them. So first of all, what's difficult is in order to spot somebody who's lying, you are most of the time, and you'll see this in interviews or like interrogations, they try to establish a baseline. They start off with very basic questions. What's your name? What's the date? Those kinds of things. Because they're looking for what do they do when they're telling the truth. Then to find somebody that's lying, they look for deviations from that baseline behavior. Now, my baseline behavior could be different from someone else. That's when you hear shit like, oh, when you look up to the left, it's like they're lying, or the right, they're being truthful. That's not something that has credible research behind it. You're really looking for those main deviations. If somebody is providing way too many details, like Lisa Rinna explaining when they were all like tied to the trees, and there are going to be spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, don't listen. When she's like everybody was tied to the trees and they had to like murder them like face to face, and everybody's coming in for breakfast the next morning to see like who gets voted off basically by or gets killed off by the traitors. And they ask Lisa, oh, well, what was it like? Because she was pinned to the tree, but she was a traitor. And she's giving way too many details. And it was just like, okay, girl, like a little suspicious. But then, so like, telling too many details, or like not really giving that many details, or there's changes in your story. Even if like what you're saying doesn't match your body language. Like if I'm saying like, oh yeah, I'm a really confident person, but I'm like hunched over and I'm looking unsure of myself, that could be an indication that you're lying, right? So there's a lot of things that indicate somebody's lying, but it really also depends on how well you know them. And these people might know of each other, but they've also only known of each other on shows, right? Like even and I keep talking about Lisa Rinna. People know of her from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but they don't know her. They know a version of her that she showed on a TV show. So you don't fully know somebody's baseline. And there was actually talk of her, who was it? I think it was fucking Colton, I think. And he was like, doesn't she seem quiet at the round table when normally I feel like Lisa would be very like kind of in your face or speaking her mind, and she's not being like that. And then Dorinda was like, yeah, actually I do know her to be a little bit more like outspoken, and she hasn't been like that. She's been very quiet. So little things like that, we're like, okay, they feel they know this one thing about the person, which she is lying. She is a traitor. So it does make sense. But you're trying to establish what is that person's baseline to see that deviation. So I think that's a very hard thing that they encounter with just trying to figure out whether or not people are being truthful. And also another thing too, to sense if somebody's lying, if somebody gets like overly defensive, that's another indicator. But the hard thing is also, again, looking at what somebody's baseline is, like a Michael Rapaport, who is a very obnoxious, loud, I'll take my adjectives to the end of the episode. He's very obnoxious and loud. So if somebody comes at him, I feel like feeds off of like really aggressive confrontation. So he's coming after you, right? Like he's going to get extremely defensive. Now, someone who's a lot more like quiet and reserved, like even like a Maura, right? If she started, or even like Tiffany, when they were accusing her of being a traitor, and she's not going to sit there and like scream at you and go crazy, because that's just not her personality. But like a Michael Rapaport is going to be obnoxious and scream in your face. So the level of defensiveness is just different, where like they both were faithfuls, but like the way that they respond, it's just difficult to tell, because like Michael was a faithful, but got so defensive and aggressive and in your face, which like thank fucking goodness he's gone. But like Tiffany, I feel like she also just had like a more like what people would say would be like a normal reaction to being accused, right? She tried to explain herself. She tried to kind of, explain also why it was important for her to be there and why she wasn't a traitor. But again, once people fixate on you, it's like they can't unsee it sometimes. But just kind of in knowing that, I think it's important to understand like just behavior, how to see if somebody's lying, and then the problems and why it's very difficult on this show. And especially when you don't know anything about these people for just like everyday humans. Now, another big theme, aside from trying to figure out who's lying, is confirmation bias. You will see, and I can't even imagine what it's like to sit in those rooms, when someone throws a name out. And I also think that it's because like they don't want to be suspecting, so they just immediately jump on whoever. If someone's willing to throw a name out there, it's like, okay, yeah, cool, like let's just go with that. But then they'll look for all these reasons to figure out, okay, that's why this person is a traitor. They're looking for things to confirm it's a thought that, or an opinion that they've been told or already have. And even if it's, not what they believe privately, if a lot of other people are talking about it, they'll show that that's kind of what they believe, right? There's a lot of confirmation bias going on. And if it's a couple people that are loud, it's easy to kind of flip somebody's opinion. So you'll even see that with like Eric, right? Colton comes out saying that Tiffany was a traitor, and he's like, oh, well, I heard a laugh, and I know that it was Tiffany. But he's just, that could be confirmation bias. Okay, that's being thrown out there. Could this laugh be Tiffany's? Maybe. But then also that's a little piece of evidence people need for plausible deniability. Oh, well, Eric, he's a musician, and so he said that his ears are pristine, and like he knew that it was her laugh. So they're looking for those things to confirm this thought or feeling or opinion that they already have and kind of what the group is thinking. But what's tough about confirmation bias too is once a name is brought up at the round table, it's very hard to walk it back. Like even Ron, he was one of the first people started suspecting because he voted out Portia at the beginning. But once it's easy to, and you'll see this just in everyday life. If people think that you're a mean person, they're going to find and they're going to twist certain things to fit that narrative. And that's exactly what happens. If people think that you're a traitor, being quiet is suspicious, right? They're hiding something. If you're emotional, you must be acting. There must be crocodile tears. Or if you're really logical, they could just be, that person's manipulative. They must be a traitor, right? So it's tough because those same things could be said for someone who's just really good at the game and they were faithful. Oh, they were like a little quiet, they're reserved, but they're looking, and they're a good game player, and they're emotional because they genuinely which she's a traitor. But Candace, I genuinely think that like she felt for Tiffany when she got voted out, but then it could be like, oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting her name from the previous season. And it was like over the top, like crying and like on the floor, and she was a traitor, and it was like, okay, girl, come on. But people are trying to figure out, is it acting, or is it like traitor-like behavior, or is she a faithful and just like really empathetic or something? But I just, that's why I think this game fascinates me so much, because you just watch all of these psychology themes in a pressure cooker, and it's just fascinating. But I do think that once again a name is brought up, people stop looking for those alternative reasons behind something, and they just look for reasons to fixate on one person. And it's confirmation bias. And then you have the in-group that's all voting this person, and maybe they're really influential, so then everybody just votes along with them, because again, you don't want to be the one person that's voting for a random person, because it could put a target on your back. So you're just trying to almost blend in, go with the group, and even if it's not what everybody feels internally, they're going to vote that person still, because they want to blend in. They don't want to be in the out group, because then you have a target on your back, right? If you're not voting with everybody else, it's like, why? Do you know something we don't know? But I don't know. I just think it's so crazy. And I will say, I do think that to an extent, it's good to, just when talking about gameplay, it's good to bring people up. But then there's a certain level, first of all, humanity. And when you get it wrong, that Colton does not have. But then there's also being a strategic game player. If you want to make it to the end and win, you should not be the person that's just constantly pointing fingers at everybody else, because eventually they're going to turn their finger on you. You're putting a huge target on your back, which leads me to my issues this season. And number one, first and foremost, fucking Colton Underwood. Now, him and Michael Rappaport, and this is where I will say again, little trigger warning, we are going to talk a little about domestic violence. It's very frustrating to me, because I think that if there was somebody on this show, and again, this is going to be a little graphic, that had physically harmed, let's take P. Diddy. We all saw that video, right, in the hallway where he was extremely physically abusive. He would not be allowed on the show. Now, when you take somebody who has been psychologically and emotionally abusive and still displayed very dangerous behaviors, they're still allowed, not even just one, but multiple platforms. I think it is disgusting for Colton and Michael Rappaport. Both equally disgusting. There have been legal matters where they have stalked and harassed exes. Now, and this is fully my own opinion, What's hard for me is I think that somebody like a Colton is more dangerous. And let me explain why. Michael Rappaport is loud and obnoxious and aggressive, and he immediately makes people feel uncomfortable. I mean, they were at the round table. They were like, we're voting you out because we just honestly don't want you here. And he's just so obnoxious. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, and just aggressive, in your face, unnecessarily so. And to me, it's like, learn how to control that, because what if somebody like that is like genuinely angry at you? What do? And then, turn your attention to the court case, right? Like when he's allegedly like harassing his ex. Then you have somebody like Colton, who's really good at charming people, who's good at he reads behavior. And even Michael was like, oh, I know when I'm like being aggressive and people are turned off by my behavior, but he just doesn't really care. Where Colton does. He wants to be liked. He wants to be perceived a certain way. He knows what people are thinking, and he takes that EQ and is manipulative. I mean, there was one point, and I'm pretty sure this is what happened, and I don't really see a lot of people talking about this, but Colton brought up Tiffany. Eric supported it with saying that he heard her laugh, and he knew this. But then they're walking out, and Colton was like, oh, you got her voted out. And Eric was like, well, you did too. And Colton had like zero fucking remorse. I mean, she is a single mom trying to put her kid through school, and she's like sitting there getting emotional. Do you not have a fucking heart? And then immediately is like going in on the next person. I mean, just zero like remorse, zero humanity. It's just disgusting. But people unsee that sometimes because he can be charming, because he can be logical, which comes across manipulative. And there's just little things he's done, like even when this is not to defend Michael, because I still think he's just as scary as somebody like Colton, but he asks Michael like something about like what Alan does like in the turret, like which is where they go, like the traitors go to vote off people, implying that he's a traitor. And he was just so like conniving and cocky and just disgusting about it. And there's just those little things, like little smirks he has, like he just thinks he's better than everybody. Like I don't know, I really don't like it. But he's charming, and people don't see his bad behavior as quickly. But when you are stalking, harassing, showing up at 2 a.m. to your ex's house, when you are putting a tracker on their vehicle and sending messages from an anonymous phone number, and I believe it was alleged that he was also sending them to himself and his ex. I mean, that is just diabolical fucking behavior. And then you see people, actually, there's this one account that I've seen like in comments on TikTok being like, oh, people can change and evolve. Would you say that about somebody like Diddy? Would you say that with somebody who physically abused their partner? Why do we normalize these behaviors? And when you put somebody on a platform like this, it does normalize those behaviors. It takes away the severity of stalking and harassing someone. And those are the kinds of behaviors that do progress. Now, can somebody, rehabilitate themselves? Sure. It takes extensive, deep work, though. It is not easy, especially when those behaviors are shown when you're like 30 fucking years old. So to me, I think statistically, it is more likely that those behaviors stay the same or progress than they get better. So I don't think that you're just an evolved person because now you've been able to come out and be who you truly are and you're married with a child. That doesn't mean that you aren't still that person that stalked and harassed your ex, right? Like there's deep work that has to be done. And you can see some of those like cocky, narcissistic like behaviors on the show even. And if you really can, like, if you know him and you can pick up on them, and that's not confirmation bias, like some of the stuff he's done is just like, ugh, it's just icky. So I don't know. He's dangerous to me. I think it's horrible that he's on the show, and I think it's also horrible, and I'm not going to mention his ex's name because I see it everywhere. Like these stories are coming up, and I guarantee you she can't go on her phone without seeing all of this stuff brought up again. She's newly married. Like let the girl fucking live in peace. But now because he's on the show, we're like re-victimizing her too. It's just, I just don't agree with it. It really pisses me off. And I just think that these kinds of behaviors, then this isn't like, I do think that people can make a comment. They can even be uninformed. They can come back from some things, but then I think there's certain behaviors that cross a line where it's a personality flaw and like a human just a human flaw. Like, there are certain things people can do that you just really don't come back from unless you can show like crazy extensive behaviors. And again, I'm not somebody that's like, shun this person because they made a mistake. There's a mistake, and there's again, being not informed, being ignorant, and needing to educate yourself. And I think that you can come back from those things. But when you are just, like, such wild behavior, putting a fucking tracker on someone's car, texting them. I had this happen when I was younger. I had a mom texting me from anonymous numbers. She like went on and got like those apps where it would come from like a random number and would text me just horrible things, would text my friends stuff, would text my boyfriend at the time things. It was just disgusting. We had to file police reports. Like, there are just certain people that think that's somewhere okay. It's like that mom. What's the documentary? And is it Unknown Number, I think, where the mom was like sending messages to the daughter and to the daughter's boyfriend, like the people at their school, their friends. Just crazy fucking things that people do that it's just like, how do you even cross that line to begin with? I don't know. It beats me. And I have to stop on this rant because it won't stop. But take Colton and fucking Michael off of the damn screen. I can't with it. I think it's disgusting, and like, do better. Please do better. But in conclusion, I do love the show Traitors. I think it is absolutely fascinating. I think that the Rob, he just cracks me up. I think he's like the perfect traitor. And I do think this is a show where he shines. Dating shows, not so much. Like, he's not really like the best boyfriend, but traitor, yes, for sure. Lisa Rinna is also just Lisa Rinna. She's hilarious. And I think Candace is so fucking smart. Okay, I was a little bit like, girl, the conga line, come on, that's so obvious. Even somebody had said it. But I didn't realize, I think I saw an interview, or maybe it was like a TikTok or something, but they were saying that there was talk of doing a conga line. People had talked about that, so it wasn't just out of the blue, which I was like, okay. But the way she's been voting, she speaks up at the round table, but not in a way that's like suspicious. I think that she's a very smart game player, and she cracks me up. So I like when the Traitors get along. I know I've seen people talking about like how they don't like when they get along. I really do. I think it's just more fun. I don't know. Every time that I saw last season when they weren't getting along, no one trusted each other. I don't know. It was just like, I have like one part of this where I don't have to feel anxious watching for everybody. So I really like it. I think this season's great, and I'm excited to keep watching as soon as fucking Colton gets voted off my damn screen. So anyways, I will stop there, and I hope that if you aren't watching, go watch. I watched like every season. It's so interesting. And if you have any comments or you want me to keep recapping, please let me know. All of that info is down in the show notes. I love doing reality TV recaps because I love to watch my shows, especially when I travel for work. So let me know what you think. Let me know any other things I can cover. If you want to ever come on and talk about these shows with me, please. I'd love to get to feed off people. Love Island. I know I keep talking about it, but like, I'm going to have my friends here. We're all going to chat. Super excited about that. I also am going to be moving the studio. I am moving into a new home. I'm super excited about it. So I will have a new studio set up a little bit more elevated, which I'm really excited about. And stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for sitting through this recap of Traitors. Again, if you're not watching, go start watching. It's so interesting. And I'm going to start really taking notes so I can recap a little bit better. But thank you again, and I will chat with you next episode.